Um, obsession. Obsession. If you are only one of the definitions of being crazy is to be so drilled down on a single thing that they describe it as monomania, where you have this single overriding, excessive, obsession with a thing. Now, in my family, we've come up with the solution of being obsessed with many, 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 many things, thereby creating the illusion of balance. Talking about which obsession I had was one of the challenges. As has been mentioned, I did spend some time as a professional magician, and very useful experience it was too. And yes, many hours spent in front of a mirror trying to make it appear as if nothing is happening. Because that really is the objective of a magician, is to do apparently very ordinary things, but that's it. A magician succeeds if what they do is invisible. But I thought also that one of the other things that's kept me from having too many obsessions is I just don't have the attention span. But one of the things that has stuck with me for many, many, many years is a passion for, and indeed I would suspect, an obsession for language, for words. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity to speak here, because this has given me a chance to really sort of expand on some of the ideas that really inform my work as a performer and as an artist. I would identify first and foremost as a poet. And I know that's not terribly fashionable. In fact, it's not the least bit fashionable. Although one of the things you can say about being a poet is that it's somewhat recession-proof. That's a smart crowd. It doesn't matter how bad the economy is, you're still fucked. But the truth is that in fact, poetry is an incredibly marketable skill. Most recently, we have a situation where the trouble is that poets can use their powers for good or evil. And frankly, evil pays a hell of a lot better. Case in point, Stephen Harper. You've got to admire on Mr. Harper's staff are some incredibly talented spin doctors who craft language in, frankly, quite evil and disturbing ways to influence the way all of us who are terribly, terribly bright, how we respond or react. May I remind you that less than 24 hours ago, this gentleman's party was shown. There was a video shown of one of the candidates urinating into a coffee cup. Remember this? You remember this, right? You were there, right? It wasn't just me. And in front, a very, very, very specifically, oh yes, and of course the other thing about the incredibly racist woman from Kinte and the guy down the Danforth making crank phone calls to people who are with disabilities. But no, I'm talking about the guy pissing in a cup. So he's confronted by somebody who says, Mr. Dewins, how do you feel about having a candidate who pisses in a cup? And he says, and I quote something along the lines of, less than a dozen words, he says, "We are committed to excellence, and that is why they are no longer in the party." Don't tell me it wasn't a poet that put that together. That is genius. Just in our own area, we have an example of evil poetry, and many evil poets do work in the real estate industry. We have a 45-story building, true story, going up in Church Street, and because it's a 45-story building. It casts a shadow, because that's what very large objects do. And this large object, which is is bearing down on this schoolyard. And the blurb put together by the developers is a masterpiece. Never mind ode to a Grecian urn. This is superlative stuff. Says, of course, there has been much ado about the playground being cast into permanent night. This, of course, is completely ridiculous, since it will only be affected for a fraction of the day. Yes, the 50% that's daytime. but it's a fraction of the day. And the shadow casts down, and it's only during the times when the sun is actually shining, which of course in Canada is rarely, but it's only in the time when the kids want to come out and play. And it says only for a few hours. And then it says, this masterpiece, it says, only for a few hours of the day will the playground be bathed in shadow. Bathed in shade. Bathed in shade. There is a special circle of hell for the bastard that wrote that. Bathed in shade. And I don't know, it just gets to me. It just gets to me how this glorious shared thing that we as semi-upright monkeys have, this language, this beautiful way of extending telepathically my thoughts to yours, is being abused. I don't know why that's obsessive of me, but it sure as hell ticks me off. However, on a lighter note, poetry does provide some hope. In fact, the purpose of poetry is, I think, to provide hope. And I joke about it being recession-proof, but the fact is, in a recession, we need it more than ever. And some of the greatest poetry that we've absorbed has come to us through times of adversity. Growing up in the UK during the war, we will fight them on the beaches, we will fight them in the villages, we will fight them in the towns, but we shall never surrender. A beautiful piece of poetry. One day I have a dream that my children will be judged not for the color of their skin, but for the content of their character. Ennobling, beautiful, rich ideas, perfect use, a proper use of the poetry that is ours to share. I don't think anybody truly realizes how deeply affected we are by the poetry, not just the specific use of language, but the rhythm of words, because rhythm provides meaning as well. Case in point, play along with me. Ready? Right? That to me is a poem. That to me is a communication, the transmission of an idea and rhythm that it's almost, you can't let go of it. You're calling me obsessed. How many of you would have felt complete saying, no, screw it, I'm not going to do it. I'll try it again. Let's try another version, okay? Let's try it. This time, don't do it. Ready? See? It's very, very difficult. I was going to come on here and make a joke about, I have friends who have OCD, and it's not a laughing matter, but I laugh anyway. The thing is, as I said to a friend of mine, I have been accused of being obsessive as a poet. The difference between prose and poetry. What is the difference between prose and poetry? One, the prose is the search for the best word. But poetry is the search for the perfect word. And my friends, the difference between obsessive-compulsive disorder and attention to detail, frankly, it's just talent. And I have a fairly high opinion of myself, and therefore I would not describe myself as having OCD. But one of the jokes I was going to do out here was to come out and say, I have that obsessive disorder from compulsions, ODC, and see how long it would itch under people's skin that I've got those letters in the wrong order. How much would it bug people if that was the case? I'm going to try a little game here, and we'll see if it plays. We're going to, and we're on YouTube. By the way, hello YouTube, how you doing? Looking good? See that thing down there? Make nice comments. Don't say rude things. I'll know. So this is going to go on YouTube, so you'll have to be a little loud so that they can hear. Okay, fair enough? You with me? Okay. 1 + 1 is. Smart and well coordinated. So let's try that again. 1 + 1 is 2 + 2 is 4 + 4 is 8 + 8 is 16. Name a vegetable. Okay, how about that? How about that? What? Listen, go. What? Wind that sucker back. Really think that one through. I mean, if your brain isn't less like, right? By the way, anybody in this room thinking about a gray elephant in Denmark? Raise your hand. Well, sometimes works. By the way, just as an aside here, I am very glad you didn't say watermelon. The fact of the matter is, I have just proven, my friends, unequivocally, that we are more influenced by the power of sound, by the rhythm of sound, than we would care to admit. That particular, shall we say, magic trick works. And why does it work? Nobody bloody knows, but it does. Yeah, 16 carat, but the fact of the matter is, you just end up in that space where carat is the only logical choice. It just, I don't know why that's funny. The other thing I was going to say was, I believe that magic trick is a form of poetry. It's a communication. It's a surprising ending. So I also believe jokes are a form of poetry and shape our language. I think jokes are tremendously cathartic and important. And I do know one quick joke about, well, actually none of my jokes are quick, but this is about a fellow goes to a psychiatrist and sits down on the couch, and the psychiatrist says, I'm just going to evaluate you. And this is a very old joke, but bear with me. Then he's on the couch and says, I'm going to do a test, and what we do is we ink blots, Rorschach test, and we're going to show you a series of ink blots, and you're going to tell me whatever comes into your mind, and just describe what you see. And so the psychiatrist opens the first one, and the guy on the couch says, well, that is a picture of a nun performing fellatio on a priest. She goes, fair enough. Opens the next one. Says, that is two donkeys doing very nasty things to a dachshund. Okay, opens the next one. That is three donkeys doing something to, I just can't even mention that. And so it goes on, and finally comes to the last one. He said, that is a picture of my father with my mother, and they are, making me. They're wearing a lot of leather. The psychiatrist finishes and says, look, generally I wait and I write a report, but in your case, I think I've come to the conclusion that you are completely obsessed with sex. And the guy says, I'm not obsessed with sex. You're the one showing me the dirty pictures. So a lot of it has to do, okay, I told you it was old, but it's topical. So I think jokes form part of our, what for me is poetry. I'm going to the thing about obsessions is they don't really have a beginning or a middle or an end. And that's true of my own obsession with the power of language, the power of communication, the power of words. I did spend many years before I used my powers for good, not evil, I worked in the insurance industry. And I can tell you that I know how to craft beautiful language that means nothing. The big print giveth and the fine print taketh away. You know that for only pennies a day, you can assure your family the peace of mind that they deserve, that you as somebody who is always looking out for them, make sure that they have the courage that will be there today and for years to come. What the fuck does that mean? It means nothing. And we just gobble it down like it's actual information. So these days I try and use this powerful thing for good, not evil. I don't get paid money for it, but I mean I get paid some money for it, but I get paid in ways that are far more meaningful. And that's, I don't know if I'm going to get serious here or not, but does anybody here know what, is it Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Anybody heard of that? It's a pyramid, right, which says that, you need food, you need shelter, you need companionship, you need sex, and right at the top is actualization. And it suggests that, well, actually, it doesn't actually say sex, but my one does. That's another obsession. But it says at the top, actualization, as if this is the pinnacle of human achievement. But I've often thought that this pyramid doesn't exist in isolation. What does this pyramid of human needs actually rest upon? And I suggest to you, I put forward to you, that it sits upon hope. That every human need evolves initially from this notion of hope. The need to succeed, to grow, is foundational. It's not something at the tip of the bloody pyramid. It precurses food or shelter, because if you don't have the will to live, the will to grow, what's the point? And that is the point of poetry. And that's why it's so incredibly important. And that's why I'm obsessed with it. Thank you.